A Tale of a Muslim Girl and Her Infidel Lover. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to remind the reader that this novel is narrated in 3 books. Book 3. The Muslim Apostate Girl and Her Infidel Lover. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim girl in Sudan. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Any resemblance to real people, living or dead, events, or locales is merely coincidental. Chapter 33. Meeting the Muslim Apostate. Dr. Kamal, the founder of the New Liberation Movement, has found herself surrounded by danger wherever she goes. She knows millions of Muslims want her to be killed. After her escape from the first terrorist attack in Canada, she has been advised by the Canadian police in Toronto to avoid any public appearance for her protection. She has also been advised not to reveal her residential address to anyone. Consequently, Dr. Ibtihal lives imprisoned within the 4 corners of her apartment. Even the owner of the building and neighbors do not know her real identity. Ibtihal has purchased 3 mailboxes under 3 different names. She has not given her real address to any of her followers and supporters. She even refused to have a phone in her apartment. She has an unlisted cell phone that cannot be traced by anyone through the internet. Ibtihal has 3 types of correspondence. The first type is from those who officially became members of the Muslims Liberation Movement and promised to spread the objectives of the movement in their circles of relatives, friends, classmates, and workplaces colleagues. Those members regularly receive leaflets and short letters from the CEO of the movement. The second type is those who became members and pledged to support the movement financially by periodically sending some money. The third type, of course, is the haters who want to discourage the movement's founder Ibtihal through life threats and negative criticisms. As time passed by, Dr. Ibtihal found it difficult to deal alone with the affairs of her Muslims Liberation Movement. She is doing the work of 3 employees, preparing short booklets, reading, and responding to letters. Therefore, she needs to employ some trustworthy people to handle the correspondence with her. To find people she can trust, Dr. Ibtihal found in the phone book addresses of a few Arab and Sudanese churches in Toronto. She used a public phone and talked to the pastors of those immigrant churches. Some of those pastors are scared to have contact with such a controversial speaker and writer who may bring disaster to their families and churches. However, one pastor welcomed Dr. Ibtihal and promised to support her spiritually. He is the pastor of a big church of Arab immigrants who are originally from countries in the Middle East and North Africa. Dr. Ibtihal hesitated to reveal her residential address to that pastor, but she promised to visit him. The pastor invited her to come for a welcoming party that would be organized in the Arabic church in Toronto. He promised that her visit would be kept hidden from the media. He also promised that the members of his church would not be informed about her visit in advance. Her visit would be a surprise visit to his congregation. The famous Sudanese apostate woman Ibtihal arrived one evening at a spacious hall that the pastor of the Arabic church rented for the special occasion. As soon as the controversial author arrived in the hall, the pastor introduced her and told his 2 types of congregations that her visit has been kept secret for safety purposes. The 2 congregations of Toronto Arabic Church consisted of Sudanese Christians who are originally from the south of Sudan, Nuba Mountains, and Darfur region, and Arab Christians who immigrated to Canada from Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon. Dr. Ibtihal is shocked when she saw the two congregations sitting separately on two sides, as if they are Christians, at a time of the social segregation in the United States of America, or apartheid in South Africa. On the right side are sitting the Arab Christians, as if they are white people, and on the left side are sitting the dark-skinned Sudanese Christians, as if they are African Americans who used to be called in Arabic Zanuj or Negroes in English. Anyhow, when the black and the white members of the Arabic Church came to know that the Sudanese apostate woman who wrote two provocative books that shocked the foundation of Islam to its very core, and also she is the founder of the Muslims' liberation movement, she has come in person to attend their annual party. Each and every one of them has decided to call their friends, school classmates, work colleagues, and relatives to rush as quickly as possible to the hall to see the most famous Muslim apostate woman in the entire universe. Accordingly, every now and then, a bunch of members sneaked out of the hall, dialed the numbers of their friends and relatives, and informed them about the life opportunity of seeing the famous Sudanese woman face to face. Shortly after the arrival of the woman, who turned the world upside down, the number of the black and the white congregations doubled. Then the number tripled and went on increasing until some newcomers were left out due to the lack of seats to sit in or space to stand on. Then the pastor of the church requested the controversial author Ibtihal to share her testimony and tell his church members about her new Muslim liberation movement. That evening, the Muslim apostate girl Ibtihal spoke briefly about her testimony to the black and white congregations, and then introduced her Muslims Liberation Movement project and invited her Christian brothers and sisters to join her new movement. But she hasn't become happy to see Christians still following the disgusting racial attitudes of their homelands in a socially advanced and free country like Canada. At that evening party, Ibtihal met an ex-Muslim Sudanese Christian man who will later become the second man in the Muslims Liberation Movement and will change the course of her life forever. Dr. Ibtihal is extremely glad to meet a Sudanese man who shared the same religious background with her, and he has almost the same vision she has for their Muslim people. His name is Kamal Ahmed. From the moment she met Kamal, Ibtihal showed great interest in him. Immediately, the Sudanese apostate woman Dr. Ibtihal requested the Sudanese man Kamal to tell her his testimony. Kamal was born and brought up as a Muslim boy. He is from the Arab tribe of Shajia, which traced its origin to Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad. He was born in the same Al-Gadarif city where the girl Ibtihal was born and brought up. He is from a deeply religious Muslim family. Due to some family problems, when he was in grade 10, Kamal had doubts regarding the teachings of the Quran about women. His sister suffered from the misogynistic teachings of the Quran on polygamy. From such an early age, Kamal's mind was haunted by unanswered questions about polygamy. Kamal's sister got married when he was in grade 6. She had a happy married life in the beginning, and she had a son with her husband. 2 years later that son died. For 3 years, his sister and her husband tried to have a child, but they could not. After they had consulted many doctors, it appeared that his sister would not bear a child again in her life. Having permission granted to him by the Quran to marry 4 wives at a time, his sister's husband secretly planned to marry another woman. Before the marriage took place, Kamal's sister somehow came to know about the conspiracy that was going on between her husband and the new woman. Then his sister put one condition to her husband: if he insisted on marrying another woman, he had to divorce her. The husband was still in love with his first wife, and therefore he rejected the condition and married the other woman anyway. To escape the pain of being humiliated by sharing her husband in bed with another woman, his sister ran to her father's house and determined not to return to her husband's house until he would divorce his second Muslim wife. The husband refused to divorce his new wife and took the matter to the Sharia court. The judge of the Sharia court passed the obedience sentence on the rebellious wife. Kamal said he could forget everything in his life except the day in which his own sister had been dragged like a notorious criminal or an animal by the cops from her father's house and taken by force to her husband's house, which the Sharia court called it Bit al-Ta, or the house of obedience. For many years, Kamal tried desperately to find justifiable answers to his questions, but all the Muslim imams, teachers, and preachers he asked could not meet his quest for just answers. Finally, Kamal turned to the study of philosophy and comparative study of religions to find an answer. He had done his master thesis and doctorate dissertation in the comparative study of religions at the University of Bombay in India. He obtained 2 bachelor's certificates, 2 master's degrees, and 1 doctorate in philosophy and comparative studies of religions from Indian and Canadian universities. While he was engrossed in those endless searches for the truth by the great Western and Indian philosophers, Kamal met Jesus Christ. Just a few verses uttered by the great master of all time answered the questions of Kamal. Jesus said, "But at the beginning of creation God made them male and female. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate." The Gospel of Mark chapter 10, verses 6 to 9. Through those few verses, Jesus forbade polygamy and divorce. Dr. Kamal found justice and satisfactory answers to those questions that haunted his mind for an exceedingly long time. He concluded that if his sister and her husband were Christians, his beloved sister would not have been humiliated and abused by the Sharia law, and her matrimonial relationship with her husband wouldn't have ended in such a tragic way. Chapter 34. The radio programs of the Muslims' liberation movement. The Muslim apostate woman Dr. Ibtihal found the Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal is sharing her call and vision from the first day she met him in that immigrant church that had a disgusting racial discrimination attitude that divided its congregations into white Arab masters and their black African slaves. She offered him a job as an assistant in her Muslims' liberation movement. Dr. Kamal gladly accepted the offer and promised to help. He is a gifted novelist. Before he met Ibtihal, he wrote profoundly and extensively on the misogynistic problems of Muslim women. He called himself a Muslim women's freedom male fighter. He is already being influenced by the works of the Sudanese apostate woman Ibtihal before he met her. Moreover, he has already initiated a program, which he called the Muslim Women's Rights Movement. Therefore, the Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal wanted to meet the brave and intelligent Muslim apostate woman, Dr. Ibtihal, from the time he heard about her proposal for Muslims' liberation movement. He had already heard her many controversial speeches and read her 2 provocative books. Likewise, he authored stories about the serious problems that each and every Muslim woman faces in her life as a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother. Dr. Kamal has a great deal of understanding and experience in his favor because he viewed the reality of those misogynistic problems with his own eyes while growing up in a Muslim society. He has a distinctive writing style that can break through social, religious, and cultural barriers and reveal the truth as it is. He has written 20 novels which deal with the misogynistic teachings of the Quran and the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad on women in Muslim societies. The following is a list of his books on the issues of Muslim women in Islam. 1. The Verdict of Obedience Against the Muslim Apostate Girl. 2. The Unacceptable Love Between a Muslim Girl and a Christian Boy. 3. The Beautiful Teacher and the Marriage Addict. 4. Resettlement of a Muslim Refugee and His 4 Wives in Canada. 5. The Arab Sugar Daddy and the Beautiful Indian Girl. 6. The Indian Child Bride and the Old Arab Husband. 7. The Indian Miss World and the Rage of Muslims of the World. 8. Christina and the Complete Jew. 9. The Tears of God. 10. The Hidden Life of the Prophet Muhammad. 11. For the Sake of My Children. 12. Inaz and the Unmarriageable Lovers. 13. Inaz and the Wicked Pastor of the Church. 14. Inaz and the Evil Imam of the Mosque. 15. Inaz and the Sinister Minister of Justice. 16. Natasha and the Illegitimate Child in Muslim Society. Part 1. 17. Natasha and the Illegitimate Child in Muslim Society. Part 2. 18. The Kidnapped Bride. 19. The Runaway Wife. 20. Haram Love. Later he will write his 3 masterpieces about Dr. Ibtihal. The Muslim Girl and Her Infidel Lover, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Those 3 books are going to be the most trustworthy and accurate biography ever written about the extraordinary life of the Sudanese Muslim apostate girl, who is the dissident Princess Ibtihal Taha al-Amin. Dr. Ibtihal employed the Sudanese man Dr. Kamal as her personal secretary and the second co-founder of her Muslims liberation movement. She promised to pay him a certain amount of money as a salary for his work. Dr. Kamal was not willing to agree to be paid for working for such a noble cause. But Dr. Ibtihal insisted on paying him because she wants him to work for her full-time. At once the Muslim apostate men accepted the offer and began to work with the controversial author Dr. Ibtihal shortly after he met her in that black and white Christian immigrant church. His duty is to help in answering the many letters that the movement receives daily. Then Ibtihal and Kamal worked together as a team for a few months. Dr. Ibtihal converted her apartment into an office and residence. Her secretary, Dr. Kamal, comes daily and spends 8 hours in Dr. Ibtihal's residential office working at his new job. He donated his 20 books to the Muslims liberation movement. He pledged that all his future writings would be used for furthering the cause of the movement. During this short period, the movement gained more followers and supporters. For the first time, some Muslims in Toronto responded to the call of the Sudanese apostate woman Ibtihal and joined the Muslims liberation movement. Dr. Kamal contacted some of those Muslims personally and began to do a follow-up with them. He understood that Dr. Ibtihal could not appear in public without risking her life. Therefore, he suggested that she should speak only on the radio and leave for him the task of the follow-up. He further suggested that the Muslims liberation movement should have its own radio program. Dr. Ibtihal approved the suggestion of her secretary and started a radio station that produces programs for furthering the cause of the liberation movement. The CEO and her male secretary speak daily for 2 hours each on the Muslims liberation movement radio. The radio helped the movement to air its programs in the USA and Canada. Through the radio, they contacted and interviewed some of the new Muslim followers. Dr. Kamal proposed that the Muslims liberation movement should employ 2 of those new Muslim followers for their zeal and love for the movement. The selected followers are 2 young Lebanese girls. The 2 girls are sisters who secretly joined the movement without the knowledge of their Arab parents. In the beginning, Dr. Ibtihal was reluctant to employ the 2 sisters for fear of angering their Muslim parents. But when the 2 sisters courageously decided to work on the movement radio program and promised to bear the consequences of their decision, Dr. Ibtihal agreed to employ them. In a short period, the 2 Arab sisters made great contributions to the movement too. Their duties are to speak daily on the radio and respond to the writings of the listeners. Besides those 2 sisters, Dr. Kamal brought 2 Sudanese men, 1 Sudanese girl, and 2 Egyptian girls to work on the Muslims liberation movement radio. Although all those 5 new employees were born and brought up as Christians in Christian homes, still Dr. Kamal had appreciated their love for the movement and their willingness to work with the Muslims liberation movement, although they are aware of the risk involved. When the number of the Muslims liberation movement employees began to increase, the CEO rented a 3-bedroom apartment and converted it into an office and radio station. Chapter 35. The achievements of the Muslims liberation movement in a year's time. 1 year passed since the highly educated Sudanese man Dr. Kamal joined the Muslims liberation movement. The founder of the movement appreciated the tremendous success that the Muslim apostate men helped the Muslims liberation movement to achieve in such a short period of time. To reward his sincere efforts and hard work, the Muslim apostate woman Dr. Ibtihal promoted him to the position of the main manager of the Muslims liberation movement, while she remained the CEO director and founder of the movement. After 1 year, Dr. Kamal suggested that Dr. Ibtihal should start appearing on TV programs and share her testimony of apostasy from Islam and conversion to Christianity, and speak about the Muslims' liberation movement and how it is rapidly progressing and gaining new followers and supporters. The Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal also wants some of the new followers to appear on TV, share their testimonies, and tell the world why they left Islam and joined the Muslims' liberation movement. The controversial author Dr. Ibtihal gladly accepted the new proposal of her manager and booked a weekly hour on the Vision channel. Every week she began to appear on Sunday evening on the Vision channel and speak for 1 hour about the goals, success, and progress of the Muslims' liberation movement. Sometimes, Dr. Kamal appeared on the show too and interviewed a new follower of the liberation movement. Following the advice of Dr. Kamal, the movement started to produce a magazine. Copies of that magazine are mailed free of charge to the Muslims' liberation movement new followers, supporters, radio listeners, and TV viewers. The radio and the TV programs are successful, but they are local and only listeners in the province of Ontario and viewers in Canada and the USA are benefited from them. For that reason, Dr. Kamal convinced the genius Sudanese speaker and writer Dr. Ibtihal to appear on the international Christian channel that is known as Miracle Channel. After 1 year from the time the Muslims' liberation movement launched its worldwide program, the movement convinced a large number of people all over the world to join it. Also, the movement received over $1 million in donations from supporters all over the world. Some of the donors preferred to keep their identities hidden for security purposes. The Muslims' liberation movement could not be able to achieve worldwide acceptance from international organizations such as the United Nations, human rights organizations, and the International Criminal Court in the Netherlands. On the contrary, some of those organizations criticized Canada for giving a base for such anti-Islamic movement. Surprisingly, the American feminists in the USA openly condemned the Sudanese founder of the movement and considered her to be a bigot ex-Muslim woman. Some called her a mentally disturbed and psychopathic woman who is suffering from psychological disorders. They also accused her of having an inferiority complex. They believed that the kidnap and slaughter of her late Christian lover by a few Muslim terrorists made her hate all Muslims of the world and considered them dangerous terrorists, including their women and children. Therefore, to take revenge on all Muslims, she created her anti-Islamic movement. Despite such negative attitudes from the feminists, the CEO of the Muslims' liberation movement ignored them when she came to know some of them are Muslim feminists who came from some third world countries such as Somalia, Sudan, Nigeria, Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Indonesia, and other Muslim and Arab countries. She also knows the phrase, Muslim feminist, is an oxymoron statement because all Western feminists are atheists. Despite that, those Western atheist feminists accepted those Muslim women to join them while they openly hate Christianity and consider it the cause that led their male counterparts to abuse them and own them as wives and prostitutes. They are showing blind eye to the disgusting anti-feministic and misogynistic teachings of the Quran and the hadiths of the alleged prophet of God Muhammad, such as polygamy, wife-beating, female child marriage, female genital mutilation, and bodily covering through the hijab and burqa. To run the work effectively, the Muslims' liberation movement has employed up to 50 people within a year. All the employees were carefully screened before they were selected. The movement refused to employ any person who did not agree with the policies and the goals of the Muslims' liberation movement. Meanwhile, the movement continued to run its work from rented apartments. Those hidden offices are held in high confidentiality. In each apartment, the movement kept 4 or 5 employees. When the number of employees increased, the Muslims' liberation movement created a board of directors consisting of 10 members. The board of directors meets once a month. In this monthly meeting, all the new proposals and suggestions are presented and discussed. In 2 consecutive meetings of the board of directors, Dr. Kamal made 2 suggestions to improve the work of the movement. Firstly, he suggested that the movement should branch out. According to him, the movement should open branches in big cities in Canada, such as Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary. Dr. Kamal volunteered to go in person and start the first branch in Montreal. All the other directors of the Muslims Liberation Movement approved his proposal except the CEO. Although the proposal is meant to further the cause of the movement, nevertheless, she rejected it without giving any acceptable reasons. Secondly, in the following meeting, he suggested that the movement should send delegates from among the board of directors to speak in other countries such as the USA, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand where there are big numbers of Muslim immigrants. Once again, the Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal volunteered to travel to one of those countries and speak on behalf of the Muslims Liberation Movement. Again, the Muslim apostate woman Dr. Ibtihal refused the proposal without giving logical reasons. This is the second time in 2 months that the CEO rejected the proposal of the second person in the Muslims Liberation Movement without giving convincing reasons. To hide what is in her heart, Dr. Ibtihal always uses Dr. Kamal's safety argument as an excuse to reject the proposals that involve high risk. She understood that he is led with great zeal and love for the Muslims Liberation Movement, that he may not hesitate for a second to sacrifice his life for the movement. The truth is that Dr. Ibtihal does not want to give the Muslim terrorists another chance to deprive her of her second dear lover. Chapter 36. Conflict of interests in the life of Dr. Ibtihal. After the tragic death of her late Christian lover, Dr. Samir Peter Deng, the terribly abused Muslim apostate girl Dr. Ibtihal Taha Alamin thought that she might never find another man to fill the emptiness and heal the deep hurt that the brutal slaughter of her handsome lover had caused inside her heart. 2 years had already passed since her lover was brutally beheaded by the Muslim terrorists in Chad. She couldn't be able to overcome the great loss and the deep injury that was inflicted in her heart due to the evil deed of those demon-possessed Muslim terrorists. For 2 years, she was having one unwavering goal that she determined she must never rest until she exposes the cause of Islamic terrorism and rids the world of it. During her many years of conversion from Islam to Christianity, Dr. Ibtihal experienced the bitter reality of the religious beliefs that she sincerely followed from childhood. She faced all kinds of abuse and torture until it reached the peak, when the jihadist terrorists beheaded her lover to take revenge on her. On that day, the Muslims Liberation Movement was born inside her heart. She then determined to show the entire world that Islamic religious terrorism is deeply rooted and grounded in the hostile teachings of the Quran and the misogynistic hadiths of its founder Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Kilab, or the son of dogs. When Dr. Ibtihal met the highly educated Sudanese man Dr. Kamal, she found him to be sharing the same divine calling and heavenly vision that she has. She admired his zeal and brilliant ideas. Through him, the Muslims Liberation Movement achieved rapid success and gained more followers and supporters. She found herself attracted to him emotionally. Even so, she fought any feelings that tried to favor him more than other members of the working team. Due to his hard work and brilliant proposals, he became the second person in the movement. She accepted every suggestion he made and promoted him to a higher position in the Muslims Liberation Movement. In a short time, he was able to take her out of her exclusion and small circle and connect her with the outside world. He brought new employees to the movement whenever the need required that. All the people he brought to work with Ibtihal proved to be sincere and good workers and made great contributions. Consequently, the highly educated Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal's outstanding and unique personality has forced the genius Muslim apostate girl Dr. Ibtihal to fall in love with him. Even so, she convinced herself somehow that she just is admiring him as a good and sincere member of the Muslims Liberation Movement. For 1 year, the pretty young Sudanese girl Ibtihal lived in this self-denial and self-deception. However, when the Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal proposed those 2 risky proposals, the CEO, the Muslim apostate woman Dr. Ibtihal rejected them because she did not want to risk losing another lover. All the directors of the Muslims' liberation movement are displeased with her unjustifiable stand against such promising proposals. That day Dr. Ibtihal could able finally confront herself and admitted that she was in love with one of her directors. She knew and understood that if she would not reveal her love to her new lover Dr. Kamal, then there would always be a conflict of interests. In the last 2 meetings of the board of directors, her personal interests were selfishly placed above the movement's interests, and hence she is hindering the future progress of the Muslims' liberation movement. She is facing the 2 horns of a serious dilemma. On one hand, if she would accept the proposals of her lover, and allowed him to travel to foreign countries, he would be exposed to possible assassination or kidnapping by the Muslim terrorist groups. Dr. Ibtihal does not want another person to be killed because of her, and especially when that person is her own apostate lover. She knows Muslim terrorists would hate her apostate Muslim lover more than her late Christian infidel lover. Therefore, if he falls in their hands, they will not behead him but burn him alive. This is because the Sharia orders any apostate from Islam is to be burned and his remains not to be buried in any graveyards. For that reason, the followers of ISIS had burned alive the Royal Jordanian Air Force pilot Musafi Youssef al-Qasasbeh because they considered him to be an apostate from Islam and a traitor who joined the US-led coalition against the Islamic Caliphate. On the other hand, if the Muslim apostate girl continues to oppose any proposal that jeopardizes the life of her Sudanese apostate lover, then the movement will remain confined to a small part of the world. The highly educated Sudanese apostate man Dr. Kamal wants the whole world to hear and participate in the mass liberation of over 1 billion Muslim prisoners. The Muslim apostate girl Dr. Ibtihal tried to find a solution to her problem, but she could not find any way out. Another problem that prevented the Muslim apostate girl from revealing her love to her Sudanese apostate lover is his stance toward her. He almost worships her and looks at her as one of the greatest figures that the world ever produced. He is considering her as an ideal to be imitated by everybody and as a heroine to be glorified and idolized by all human beings. Simply put, from the time she met him, the lovely apostate girl discovered that the highly educated Sudanese man worships her as his goddess. She doesn't know her apostate lover loves her as the goddess Aphrodite, who is associated with erotic, love, beauty, desire, pleasure, passion, procreation, and all aspects of sexuality, or the goddess Athena, who is associated with wisdom, courage, inspiration, civilization, law, and justice, strategic warfare, strength, strategy, the arts, crafts, and skill. Therefore, she doesn't know whether his love for her platonic love or erotic love is. This idolized image blinded Dr. Kamal and prevented him from seeing a deep love the pretty Sudanese girl Ibtihal has in her heart for him. Yet, there is another serious problem that hindered Princess Ibtihal from revealing her love to the apostate man Kamal is his feelings towards another female employee of the Muslims' liberation movement. After 6 months from the time Dr. Kamal joined the movement, he brought a Jordanian girl to work with the Muslims' liberation movement. The Arab girl is an ex-Muslim who responded to the calling of the movement, forsook Islam, and joined the Muslims' liberation movement. Moreover, the girl is beautiful, young, smart, and has an extraordinary, charming personality. In fact, she won the love of every member of the Muslims' liberation movement as soon as she joined the working team. Everybody loves her and everyone wants to work with her. She loves everyone too. Therefore, the Sudanese apostate girl Dr. Ibtihal is not sure whether the feelings the Muslim apostate man Dr. Kamal has for that Arab girl are special, or just like everyone else he loves her outstanding personality. Yet, one more problem standing in the way of Ibtihal is the fear of losing his trust and love if she reveals her love to him and discovers he doesn't love her, and hence losing his respect and the respect of other members of the movement. She does not want to be considered a selfish boss who uses her position and tries to force her love on her employees. She also does not want others to say that she took advantage of her position as a CEO in the movement and tried to force one of her employees to love her and marry her. Dr. Ibtihal feared that she might be exposed and betrayed by her feelings if other members of the movement knew already Dr. Kamal is in love with the Jordanian girl. For all those reasons, Dr. Ibtihal put the interests of the Muslims' liberation movement first and pushed her interests aside. However, her last two irrational objections to Dr. Kamal's proposals had reversed the order, and her personal interests began to push themselves forward and kick the interests of the Muslims' liberation movement backward.